Hello and welcome to your weekly dose of reviewing stuff. I'm not going to talk any further rather than just weekly dose of reviewing stuff word. And for today's episode of this weekly dose of reviewing stuff here, I'm going to take you a look at my personal phone. It's not this one obviously, but instead I have this one, which is an evil twin of my personal phone, except for it has fewer cameras. And right now, without any further hesitation ado, let's get this episode started, homies. And as we take a look at the smartphone itself right here, so you might going to notice that it's just an ordinary or normal everyday smartphone from 2020. But although that's not just the case, it's because it mostly depends on the specs, the hardware, the software, the camera, all of that good stuff that's actually related to the phone itself. But hey, do it still work in 2023 or after 2 years since its release? Well, I don't know about that, and you guys don't know about that. And before we get into any deep detail about this phone right here, so I would like you to take a look around the phone itself right here before I get to anything more about the phone and the deep detail and the deeper grade of this phone. And first of all, from the glance on the front, you got a 6.5-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1600 by 720, if I remember. It's a 20:9 aspect ratio sort of. And on the top right there, you got 5 megapixel front camera, as well as an earphone for calls and some proximity sensor stuff. And also on the top right there, a headphone jack, which is basically just an all-in-one jack, and there is the hole right there on the casing. It's basically made for the other models that it has a stereo microphones, which is basically just the same body as this one, but except it does give you a stereo microphone and an ultra-wide camera. But this one, it doesn't even have an ultra-wide camera, and it doesn't even give you a stereo microphone on this, so that's why they just kind of leave it like that. And on the side right there, you got a power button as well as a volume rocker to adjust the volume of the phone. And on the bottom right there, you got a speaker as well as a micro USB for charging and transferring data, and as well as the microphone, which in this case, this one right here is a mono microphone. And on the side there, there's a mysterious button that actually opens up a Google Assistant. And on the back right there, you get absolutely nothing but the dual camera setup. One is the primary 13 megapixel camera, and the other one right there for a bokeh effect. And there's a flash for taking photos and videos in the dark. Like so. It's pretty bright, to be honest. Ah! My eyes! Damn it! The flashlight on this thing is super bright that it's actually going to blind my eyes. It's actually bright enough to light scenes up in the dark or whatever, but the little... And the flashlight on this thing, which I'm gonna say is really bright, that is actually enough to light scenes up in the dark, or it's going to blind your eyes if you have it faced to the front on your face, and then it's going to hit your eyes so much. But oh well, the flashlight on this thing is super bright. It's really bright as a sun, but not that much. So, and alright, so that's basically it for taking a look around at the phone right here. Nothing really special, spectacular. And right now, I'm going to get into the deep detail and the deeper grade of this phone right here. And right now, I'm going to open up, and you can see that right now it has turned on the lock screen. And right now, I'm going to swipe that, swipe to the top. And you can clearly see that right now it's on the menu screen. There's a bunch of built-in apps like Facebook, Google stuff, Google Assistant, which is basically just going to open up Google Assistant. And when I press this button right here, it's going to open up Google Assistant too. And as we take a look at the apps right here, so you can see that there are some apps that I have installed from the area, like an advanced audio recorder, HCam 2, and YouTube Studio right there. And you can clearly see that there's not much apps that I have installed on this phone right here. Okay, so right now I'm going to check out the specs of this thing before I get to anything more. So where is it? And there is about the phone. And here's the device name. It's the View4 Lite, and the Android that is running is on Android 10, and right now I'm going to double tap on that for an Easter egg. Okay, Android 10, here we go. So this is basically some Android 10 stuff going on here. Okay, that's enough. And here's the security patch level. It's from September 5, 2020. So no surprise why this thing right here is just an ordinary smartphone from 2020. And there's a blue number right there, which I'm not going to read into detail that much. Okay, so that's basically it for checking out the specs in a nutshell. And right now I'm going to get into the camera of this thing. Alright, right now I open up camera and you can see that right now I have turned on the camera app, and you can clearly see that it's basically some stock Android camera going on here. And you got a blur mode right here, which what it actually does is just going to create an artistic blur like a bokeh effect or something like that. And it does actually gives you the setting right here where you can adjust the f-stop, which is actually going to create the blur effect on the background. So it's actually the standard camera from 2020 back then, but although this thing right here, I did actually saw a lot of variant of this phone right here where it's just a normal View4, which it actually does have a wide angle lens and it has a stereo microphones like what I say in the area where I talk about this hole right here. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Alright, so let's switch to the front camera, and you can see that it is a 5 megapixels front, and you also got a night mode on the camera and beauty and all of that stuff. And here is the quality that you can set. You can set from 720p, 1080p, and the full screen if you wish. And alright, so that's basically it for taking a brief look at the camera. And you also got a filters on the back camera too. So, and for the filters on the back camera right here, which is going to be the same as the front camera anyways. And alright, so that's basically it for around the camera of this thing. And right now I'm going to test the camera of this thing. This might take a few minutes, and I'll be right back later after I've done some camera tests from this View4 Lite. And right now, without any further ado, let's take a look at the photos and videos that were taken from a View4 Lite, or known as the WV730. Okay, so and here's some 1080p video tests from a so-called View4 Lite, known for the model number WV730 according to the settings of the device. You can clearly see that right now is doing a really good job at doing close-up shots like this one right here. For example, when I do a close-up shot on this little cactus right here, you clearly see that right now the autofocus on the camera is doing a pretty good job. And if I pan away from the cactus, and it's back to focus landscape again. And if I go even further more, it's just going to be a lot blurry. So, and this thing right here, I presume that you can actually do a close-up shot up to around about a centimeter or something. But although I don't even sure, but you can actually do some pretty nice and clips close-up shots like what I'm doing here right now. But for the camera that it has an autofocus like this one right here, which I'm gonna say it's like a pretty typical smartphone these days, which the camera, it does have autofocus, and the most of the stuff right here was actually being done on the most of the everyday smartphones like what you see right now. And I presume that it has 4 times digital zoom. There we go. And it's even more blocky pixelated. Alright, so that's basically it for a 1080p back camera test. And right now I'm going to switch to the front camera to see if it does actually make any difference or not. Okay, and right now I'm recording a video on the front camera of the V730, I think, the View4 Lite. And you can see that right now I'm recording at the same video quality as what I did on the back camera. And you can see that the only difference that actually really makes is just the camera itself right now is just bring. Oh, Well, the birds just pass on me for no reason. And the only one difference that it really makes when it comes to using the front camera is that the front camera of this thing is just like an ordinary or everyday smartphones. The front camera doesn't have a fixed focus, and you can't even do any close-up shots on the front camera at all. And for the front camera right here, which I'm gonna say it does have a wide focal length and what on the back camera have, but although it's basically just the same anyways, or it actually makes a bit of a tiny difference. And right, so that's basically it for a camera test of the View4 Lite, or known as the WV730. Right now, camera test has done. Right now, I'm going to switch back to the main camera right here, where I usually use to record all of my videos. Let's get back to my Sony Xperia, I guess. Okay, so you may have seen some photos and videos that were taken from this 2020 smartphone right here. So, and I'm gonna say for the photo quality of this thing right here, which I'm gonna say it's got a pretty standard fare going on here. But for example, let me show you some photos that were taken with this right here. So it's in the Google Photos, and so you might going to see some photos right here, but all of them where it's got a pretty standard fare going on here. And here it is, here they are, and you can see that they look pretty much the same as what most other smartphones have these days. And I also discovered that it does have a night mode, but although here's the performance of the night mode on this camera, which and this is the photo right here where I took in the dark situations, and I just took the photo of my laptop in night mode, and you see you can barely see the detail though on my laptop, but you might going to see that little sticker right there that I put on my laptop. I didn't get any detail out of it that much, but although despite being just a darkness, it's just looking like that. And I also discovered that in slow motion mode, the only quality that you can set is only 280 by 720 and not 1080 unfortunately. So there's no full HD slow motion on the back camera. What unfortunate for the smartphone, but well, what you gonna expect, a 2020 smartphone, so it's just got a pretty standard fare going on here for the camera. And there's other modes that I didn't test, like a time lapse or professional mode, which appears to that is pretty much the same as the most other smartphones these days anyways. And if I change to the settings right here, there is a setting right there to turn on the watermark, which what it actually does is just every time you take a photo, it's just going to put a watermark on it. So let me try that. And you can see that here is the photo of my phone right there, and there is a watermark right there, which is basically just a branding for it. That's pretty much it for the watermark, so it doesn't even give you any information about the phone itself. It's just a brand and that's it. And shutter sound, which you can turn that on off if you want to. And unfortunately there's no any of the options that you can set on the video mode for a picture frame, which it's just a pure viewfinder for the video mode. There's not much setting that you can set on the video mode. But what about the flash on this thing? Which, well, for the flashlight of this thing right here, which I'm gonna say it's pretty bright, but compared to sort of the LED lights that it has a bit dim, but for a flashlight of this thing right here, which I'm gonna say is extremely bright when you're going into a complete dark area and then you have this flashlight on, which is going to be like, ah my god, my eyes. The flashlight of this thing right here, it looks pretty much a super bright flashlight. When I turn on this flashlight right here, when I have this a bit of lightning right there, and if we're gonna count that one right there, which it's just pretty much a standard flashlight going on here for an Android smartphone, which it actually does make a say apply to my whole APA anyways. And that's basically it for the camera, which there's a lot of things that I didn't test around the camera right here, and if I'm not gonna count the filters on this thing. So that's basically it for the camera on this thing. And right now, let's take a quick look at the organizers on this phone. So after I've done some camera tests, so right now I'm going to take you guys a look at some organizers on this phone in a quick time. So first of all, let me take a look at the phone on this thing. So we got some pretty much a standard interface of the contacts going on here. So right now I didn't have any contacts on this phone, which that means I don't have a SIM on this phone. So that means there's no contacts or either places on this phone. So let me dial something else before we get into other stuff on this phone. Let me dial this number. And if I'm going to call this number, well, that's too scary. Whoever wants to call that, huh? Or what about this one? Okay, so that's enough, Ryukin, that's enough. Okay, so that was basically it for the calls, but what about the messages? So there is no messages, and there's the other count on this phone. And what about the calculator? Okay, so here's the calculator. And right now I'm going to calculate 25 multiplied by 5. 125. Pretty good standard calculator as usual. From the calculator we go to the clock. Okay, so here's what it looks like for the clock. And you can see that here's the alarm, clock, timer, stopwatch and stuff. And what about the FM radio? Okay, so let me use this AUX audio cable right here to use as antenna. So okay, so right now is using this as antenna. So right now I'm going to play through the speaker. Record audio, yes. Okay, there we go, it works. Okay, so right now I'm going to scrub through the radio, and then I'm going to play through the speaker. Okay, so we got some pretty much a standard FM radio going on here on this phone. So nothing really special here particular for the FM radio. And right now from the FM radio we go to the sound recorder, and here's what it looks like for the sound recorder on this phone. And I do have some recordings on there too, which I would like you to take a listen one by one. Okay, so and here's a audio test from a View4 Lite, or known as the WV730 for the model number. Okay, so when I use this file extension right here, which is this one right here, a 3GPP one, which it makes the sound look, well, it just pretty much the same quality as what it used to be on the video, but well, but it do still make a difference though between the MP3 or FLAC or FLV or WAV or whatever file extension for the audio is. But this one right here, okay, it doesn't sound too bad. But as soon as it switched to the low quality, okay, and here's an example of it's just going to be sound like this. So it feels like it's actually coming out from a really low quality microphone of the year 2000s or something like that. And from the sound recorder right here we go to the settings, and here's the settings. Here's what it looks like, but at least it got 1.0 not 2.0. Okay, so that's basically it for the settings. And taking a look at the about phone right here, so you got pretty much a standard settings going on here on an Android 10, like this one here for example. But how about the Chrome, which is just goes to the Chrome. So nothing really special spectacular about the Chrome. And alright, so that's really it for some organizers on this phone. And there is something like a weather right here, which is going to go to the weather. Although only while using this app. Oh well, thanks. Thank you. Okay, so here's what it looks like for the weather forecast on this phone. And that's really it for some basic organizers on this phone. And there's some smart axis though, which is kind of like an antivirus on an Android phone. So nothing really special spectacular about the smart axis anyways. So Okay, so that's basically it for some organizers on this phone. And right now I'm going to take you guys a test of an internet on this phone to see what it's gonna be look like. And right now I'm going to go for Google as fast as possible. And right now I have my other account on it, and right now I'm going to search for oh well, I'm just going to ignore that. Thanks, delete that. Okay, there we go. And right now I'm going to search for a View4 Lite, and it's right there. Okay, there we go. And here is what it looks like when it comes to browsing something on an internet, such as this one right here, at droidsense.com, for example. Alright, we use cookies to improve performance. Allow that, thanks. Okay, so here's what it looks like when it comes to browsing an internet on this phone, which is just only pretty much a standard fare going on here for browsing an internet like this one right here, for example. So we got a 5 megapixel selfie camera and a 13 megapixel dual rear cameras all together with a 2 megapixel bokeh camera to help capture clear blurry image easily. And I couldn't escape from MediaTek, guys. I couldn't escape from the MediaTek. And right now I'm going to search for something else. There we go. Okay, I have a Wikipedia on there too. Oh my god. Look at that. Look at that face. Look at that face. Look at you. Okay, so and here's what it looks like when it comes to browsing a Wikipedia on this phone. Description, there we go. History and origins. Oh well. The Ryukin is Chinese in origin. What a good choice to have this on an internet test. But how about a YouTube test on this phone? So let me go to the YouTube as fast as possible this time. Try YouTube Premium. No, thanks. Okay, so here's what it looks like when it comes to browsing YouTube on this phone. And okay, so okay.
Hello, and welcome to your weekly dose of reviewing stuff. And for today's episode of this weekly dose of reviewing stuff here, I'm going to take you a look at.
Okay, so and here's what it looks like when it comes to browsing a video on YouTube, like myself, for example. Okay, so for a video performance on YouTube, which I'm gonna say do that.
Should I have to review this piece of technology here?
Okay, so I'm gonna say the video quality, it mostly depends on the video source, like this one right here, for example, one of my videos right here, which, oh well, I'm gonna say it's got a pretty much a standard fair YouTube quality going on here.
But hey, it's
okay, so that's enough. Okay, so and here's my YouTube channel right there, so you can go subscribe to him if you want. It's like promoting myself, isn't it? Okay, so and right now I'm going to choose this one right here, a Sony 4K demo.
Nuances that escape the naked eye to show you reality with colors and clarity that awaken all your senses and resonate deep inside.
But hey, for 2 GB of RAM inside this thing with a MediaTek 825 processor,
Prepare to be amazed.
the quality seems to don't have a lag at all. But although for a 4K video browsing on this, which what you gonna expect from an everyday smartphone from 2020 like this? And alright, so that's basically it for an internet and YouTube test on this phone. Okay, so that was really it for an organizer test, which I've done a pretty fast as possible, and some internet and YouTube tests on this phone, which I'm gonna say it's got a pretty much a basic fare going on here for a pretty much an everyday smartphone like this one from 2020. And okay, so what are my conclusions that I have with this phone? So first of all, this phone right here, it's just got a pretty much a standard and a basic type of an everyday smartphone from 2020, but although it's just got pretty much a standard stuff going on here, like you got a 13 megapixel camera, a front 5 megapixel camera, and some pretty much a basic fare like what you actually gonna expect on an everyday smartphone, which you can browse on internet, YouTube, and all of that good stuff that you really want to do on your smartphone. But although if you want to play games on this, it mostly depends on the graphics, which if the graphics is too like an RTX, it's going to be super laggy, and then maybe you have to be like do this like a couple of times and then you're just going to get to the home screen. But somehow it mostly depends on what the graphics you have and what the quality that you select is too high or too low. Or else if it's gone too low, it's going to be fast, but although the only thing that is actually going to get you is the crusty pixel quality. It mostly depends on what you're going to use this phone. But the most of the time, I didn't play games that much, and the only game that I play is only Minecraft. It's only one game that I really want to play. So, but to be honest, it is actually pretty good for doing everyday stuff, like you want to call your friends, or you even can have a Discord on this phone too. But since it has a 2 GB of RAM inside this phone and an A25 MediaTek processor. But although for the look and the style of this phone right here, which it kind of mimics some Android stuff going on here, and the camera, which it kind of mimics an iPhone 10 camera design, but although it's got a dual camera setup right there on the back and on the front, it's pretty much a standard Android teardrop or notch drop or whatever it is right there on the front camera. But for the design, it doesn't look too bad after all. So, and that's really it for my conclusions that I have with this phone. So, what about my overall conclusions that I have with this phone? Okay, so talking about my overall conclusions right here, which I'm gonna say it's just got a pretty much a standard fare going on here for a smartphone like this one. Okay, so that's basically it for a review of a View4 Lite, or known as the WV730 from the model name or the model number, I think. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And what about my final thoughts that I have with this? Well, just pretty simple. It's a basic Android smartphone from 2020 that you can do almost everything on it, but except for when it comes to playing high quality graphics video games, like when you turn on the RTX on Minecraft, or when you turn on the RTX on a Marble Race, which is going to be super laggy. And okay, so that's basically it for a review of a View4 Lite, or known as for the model number, a WV730. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave us a like, comment, and the most importantly is to subscribe to this channel. And I do appreciate that, and I will see you guys later in the next video, where I'm going to do more quality content like this for you guys. Go subscribe to this guy right now. But anyways, bye!